This is the final word. It is season 19. It's episode 3 with Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins in the embers of October, the late stages of the Women's World Cup and the lead up to the men's Ashes. The most closely watched Sheffield Shield round since the last one and until the next one, on a show that is brought to you by Maurice Blackburn, the #1 plaintiff law firm in Australia. And if you are listening to the show and you want to join up with us, patreon.com/thefinalword, that's where you can do that. Good morning, Adam. I don't know if it's morning. I'm just going to say that. It may not be morning when people are listening to this, but I've said it anyway. I've gone for it. It's too late. I can't retract it.
Yep. Good morning or good afternoon to you and to everyone wherever you are listening around this planet of ours. You talked about late stage of the Women's World Cup, late stage capitalism. It feels like when following the news around the world as well. It feels like it's a grim old place right now. However, and some of that will be part of our conversation later in the show, I suppose, with the what's happened with those Afghanistan cricketers that have died over the weekend and how that's affected a tri-series that's going on with Pakistan and Sri Lanka and now Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe playing Test cricket, that'll get talked about later on, as will the Test series, a very good Test series between Pakistan and South Africa, and the East Asia qualifiers that we've had an eye on over in Oman in the last week. So a busy show as always, but a lot of it will focus on what's going on during the Ashes build-up, the enormous Shield round, lots of stuff to draw from that, some excellent finishes too. And our eyes have well and truly turned to the Ashes as far as, I guess, our broader operation, Jeff, for we are in that stage. What are we, a month out from the first ball being bowled as we record this? When we're trying to work out where it'll all land with who are our commercial partners and that type of thing. So this is the time. I'm
going to say the bit that you usually say. There's room for one more. There's room for one more through the Ashes. We're talking to a range of people at the moment. We've had more meetings in the last week than I can remember ever having in my life. But there's room for one. If you want to sneak into that last spot, if you want to Stephen Bradbury it, if you have a company that you think fits the kind of things that we like and that we talk about in the way that Lacuna Sports did on the Women's World Cup shows, or anything, it doesn't have to be in that area, could be, you can pitch it to us. But get in touch. Adam handles most of this stuff. Adam@finalwordcricket.com.
Yeah, and a reminder that how good a time zone this works out to be in if you're in the UK. So with our audience so nicely divided between Australia and England and the UK more widely, that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. If we've done these before, they've been incredibly successful. Our downloads spike. If you're waking up in England, what's the first thing you're going to do when you wake up of a morning of an Ashes day? You are going to work out the scores. First of all, you'll check them. Then you'll probably want to listen to what happened, and Jeff and I will be on the ground writing and commentating and doing all the things we normally do. And our 25-minute summary is there for your company, your brand, to sat right in the middle of in our peak season in an Ashes series that is the most heavily anticipated or most anticipated for 20 years. So
we may be sobbing, we may be laughing, we may be shouting, we may be all of those things at times in the same episodes. Sometimes the immediate reaction is it's cathartic to be able to get out there with you and talk through what we went through over the previous 7.5 hours of watching Test cricket while somebody else was asleep. And the question on everybody's lips is, who's gonna play? Because every Shield round, the plot thickens, or the plot gets less thick in some cases. You know, some claims get stronger, some claims weaken, but the Marnus claim is about as strong as it could be right now. Another big 100, and the Premier. Some people said it was a joke when I was saying Jay Weatherald's Ashes. I'd like to say before almost anybody else. I reckon it was about 3 years ago where I was talking up Jay Weatherald to get in the Test team at some point. But particularly, over the last 6 months, it's gone from humorous curiosity to strong possibility. And then there's the Matt Renshaw bit of the puzzle, which could come into things as well. Oh, can't have two left-handers opening the batting. I seem to remember that working pretty well at times in the past. They just need to be the right left-handers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot went on in the 3 games that we had over the last week.
Well, I mean, the fact that Weatherald's a left-hander kind of repudiates all of that, doesn't it? Like the idea we want a left-hand, right-hand. Okay, well, it feels like he's leapt into pole position. He turns 31 in a couple of weeks. So he's a battle-hardened cricketer. Made runs, made 94 from 99 balls in that quite remarkable game that was resolved by 3 runs where Tassie got over the line, which we'll go into in some depth in a moment. But yeah, like I've never had a huge problem with the right-hand, left-hand thing. I appreciate why they would ideally want a right-hander, but I also think that this Renshaw thing's the smoky here, and it's the reverse of what happened with him when that disastrous start to 17-18. Remember, he was in the test team in Bangladesh in October 2017, had a really bad start to the Shield season and found himself out of the squad entirely. The very fact that Renshaw's been called up to the one-day squad shows that he's in there thinking, and if they're already considering going with another battle-hardened left-hander, well, someone who's played quite a bit of test cricket might be attractive as well, given he's got experience, hasn't got much experience against England. He did involve himself in the Ashes series in 23, but not in a proper way. And by that, I mean, he was in the squad and he was often sub-fielding, but he wasn't in the test matches proper. But yeah, that's interesting. It's also an occupational hazard for me now, Jeff. I am going to, on radio, invariably refer to him as Jay Weatherald. How am I going to keep calling him Jake Weatherald the whole way through without slipping into the joke from the podcast? That's it's a bit like if Josh Ryan Phillippe ever made it into the test team, I'd be stuffed.
I genuinely struggle to remember Josh Phillippe's real name probably half the time because it's just that's just what I've called him on the show for probably 8 years.
Exactly.
Since the first time I made the Sarah Michelle Gellar joke. I think originally it's because I got the name wrong by accident. It might even be.
Well, then we found out that his middle name is Ryan, which makes it even better.
That's right. You know? Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, one more. The other thing to say is there's one more round to impress. Like I know there are 2 more rounds before the cutoff.
But the squad gets picked after the 3rd.
Yeah. So we're expecting the squad to be announced 1st or 2nd of October, end of the next round. So Smith will play the next 2 games. He'll be back from New York and straight into that Blues team. Yeah, and we'll go to the results in a minute and where the team stand and that type of thing after a couple of rounds. But you got one more hit out, right? Like there is so much riding on what happens here. And the very fact that Labuschagne will be in the team, there's really no doubt about that. But where he'll bat, if he opens, which I'm not sure, they've certainly left the door open to that in the public commentary. If they go with him instead, right hand, left hand, the 2 Queenslanders, Khawaja, Labuschagne. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but if they choose to go that way, I'm not offering a view one way or the other. If they do, there is space for other combinations. If they don't and he bats number 3, well, then it's Webster or Green, right? And Green got conservatively managed out of the one-day squad this week with side soreness, but we know, Jeff, in the past that side soreness, however slight, can end up becoming a serious injury very fast, and they obviously want Green to be a bowler in this series. And if they're worried about that, then it could be, even with the sore ankle that's been managed for Webster, that he becomes the number 6 instead of Green. And if they think that Webster's too much of a risk with that ankle, or they don't think that's quite the right fit, then that reopens the door to Mitchell Marsh, who we talked about on the last couple of weeks and made an unbeaten half-century against India on that same ground only 4 days ago.
Well, and also was super, dynamic, was muscling sixes over the offside and that kind of thing, which may not be that different to the way they'd like him to play if he were at 6 in a test match on that same ground. So
the only thing I put to you, Jeff, on that, before you go into it, the only thing I'd ask you in your answer here, how do you reconcile the non-fifth bowler then? I've been trying to work this through. If they were to go Labuschagne 3, obviously Labuschagne Smith head in that scenario, an opener in Weatherald, or designate, or Renshaw, or Harris. You never want to count out Marcus Harris for this, for similar reasons, experienced left-hander who's been there before, to open with Khawaja. In that number 6 spot, if Marsh isn't really bowling and they choose to go with Marsh, how do you go with that? Does it open the door to arguably someone else who we've not even mentioned yet, if Webster has ongoing issues with his ankle, if Green isn't able to bowl, if Marsh is seen as a non-bowler, which is the case at the moment? Is it completely ruled out that you could have someone else altogether? Or indeed, if they parted ways with that idea, that someone like Josh Inglis could find himself in the team? I think there are more open doors than people are giving credit to at the moment.
Yes. Is it Michael Neser at 7, Carey 6? Oh, wouldn't that?
Let me have a lie down. Fucking hell. Rolling well, Ness. Rolling well.
Yeah.
It's like we forgot about Michael Neser for 5 minutes there. I say we, collectively, royal we, but we are part of that.
Yes.
We didn't even mention him in dispatches a couple of weeks ago. How dare we? How dare
Well,
you?
he's had a quiet-ish time, but took 4 for in this last round. So he's had his injuries, had his absences, just hasn't been right at that front of the pack in the way that he was for those few years before that, and maybe the age thing, although that doesn't seem to bother them with Boland being next in. So I will say a couple of things. Two left-handers, historically, look, worked okay when it was Langer, Hayden, then they went Phil Jakes, and they went Mark Hussey, then they went, there were Chris Rogers, who and David Warner. So there were a lot of all left-handed opening partnerships for Australia over the years, and it wasn't overwhelmingly a problem, just as there are quite a lot of all right-handed opening partnerships, and some of them went okay as well. So no big deal there. Playing four bowlers, you can play four bowlers. Many a Test team has played four bowlers.
Not sure
before.
they will this team though, right, Jeff?
I'm not sure they will if it's Hazelwood, and if Cummins made it for game one.
It feels like Cummins will play later in the series based on Bailey's comments the other day, right? So, but Test one at Perth, are they going to run the risk of playing one bowler, of not having down. The fifth? That's kind of what I meant before. If I'm not saying that Webster's injuries are going to keep him from bowling in this series, but a combination of Green having a niggle and Webster missing Shield cricket and Marsh not really bowling these days, it does present an interesting question. Could there be someone completely from left field because they're sensitive about going in with just the four bowlers? And I'd respect that. I'd respect the sensitivity to that point because I know
someone who could be a 6 or a 7. Does Aaron Hardy get a late
kind of what I mean is like a Hardy Wildermuth type. As far away as they might feel, do they find themselves in the squatters back up and see what happens on the day? There's a bit to play out here, and there's two full Shield rounds as well, acknowledging they'll play one more round after the squad's announced.
Also say a side strain is the most lied about injury. If you want an injury for deceit, it's always the side strain. The side strain is always nothing much, precautionary, a bit of soreness until it's 8 weeks. Whereas if somebody's got a sore calf or a sore hamstring, they're not playing. Like there's less room to dissemble around that. So I don't necessarily think it's a big deal, but it could be. I think Webster is the reporting on Webster is that he's good. Like he's fine. They've been conservative with managing him to this point, and now he's fine to go because he's already had his period of time where they had to be careful. I mean, he rolled an ankle; it wasn't the end of the world.
It's probably more like if he rolls another one, right? With Webster, it's like if he rolls it again when playing in the Shield next week. I think the next round starts on the 27th, so still six days away at time of recording of him having to be on a team sheet.
If he bangs his head, if he's on a friend's boat and he goes down the little staircase and he's too big and he whacks his head, occupational hazard for people at our kind of altitude, because I hit my head all the time, particularly in a country like Portugal where everyone's 5'2". The doors are correspondingly not the way that you would expect them to be. So he could do himself a mischief. It could be possible. The games that the Tassie result, absolutely ridiculous. Wow. 3-run margin. What a finish. And Weatherald didn't go big in the first innings, made 18. No, it was a low scoring game, so that's not nothing. That's more than 10% of the runs. Tassie 171, WA 172. How's that for a nicely set up first bit? Bancroft didn't make any runs. Jackson Bird plugging away as ever, took 3 for. And then Tassie made 259, and that was almost entirely on the back of Weatherald, 94 off 99 balls. Would have been nice if he'd got the 100 just to really stamp it. But I think selectors are smart enough to be able to look at that game and say nobody else has made any runs. Yeah. He's the one who's made the significant score, which gets them the lead that's enough, but only just because the target was 259. WA were nowhere near it at 200 for 8. And then Corey Rocket Charlie bats long with Joel Curtis. They get within a few wickets, so within 7 runs of the win. And then Curtis was out. Riley Meredith, a little bit like me going to music festival in early December, got fucked up by Meredith, and Curtis was gone, and then Jackson Bird takes the last wicket with 4 runs to play with. I mean, I don't know what the closest Shield results are, but there can't be a lot of 3-run margins.
I'm sure someone will tell us. Yeah, it was there was a tie, wasn't there? There was a tie.
I'm sure there've been a couple that were 1 or 2 runs. Must have happened. They played enough, but
I know of a tie. It was a Shield game that was played on TV. It was a televised Shield game in the 60s when there wasn't a Test match between New South Wales and Victoria in, I think it was a Boxing Day start. Anyway, I digress. But
I reckon it's top 5 closest results. That's my gut.
The accidental Yorker from Bird, as he described it later, he let the ball go. He thought it was a fully, and it just dipped and dipped and dipped, and it blew Haskett's toe off right in front of middle, and that was the game. But you're right about selectors knowing what 94 from 99 on a pitch that's doing bits means. So, yeah, he doesn't get to raise the bat, but I think that people will evaluate it for what it is. And, yeah, what a great finish there with, Corey, Roland, Roccacelli, batting with Joel Curtis. And they nearly get there, that 52 for the ninth wicket. But then, the Meredith intervention. And that gets Tassie a famous victory. But to see off WA the way they've been over the last 5 or 6 years takes some doing. So well played them. 2 close ones. Victoria won by 38 runs at the aforementioned Juno in the old rivalry. Victoria, New South Wales. Victoria, 240. Harris missed out the first dig. Hanscom, 85. There's a nice picture that I think Bryce McGain put up on his Twitter feed or his Instagram or something like that of Adam White absolutely devastated when Hanscom's out for 85, which sums up the great man Whitey and how he wears these things close to his sleeve.
Hanscom, he shouldn't be entirely out of the conversation.
If he bowled a few offies, if he might be that fifth bowler I'm referring to before. Then
they don't need an extra spinner in Perth, though. That's the thing, because you've got your head Labuschagne Smith bit where you could turn to them for overs if it was going to be a pitch receptive. But they won't want to have 2 quicks bowling when one goes down in Perth.
You know who did it last year? It was when they did have a breakdown. Hazelwood breakdown and Labuschagne did it.
Yeah,
don't think they'll do that this time. I think they'll be
the best,
Yeah, Labuschagne
was okay.
Very useful medium pace when he's performing that role, when he's trying to do the bang it in thing that's less effective, I think, at his pace. But yeah, Victoria 240, New South Wales 163. The Ferg Burger, Fergus O'Neill, on the week that the Lobster Cave in Beau Morris shut its doors and went out of business, Ferg Burger, I know, it's Ickham. Yeah, the mobster with the lobster, that saw them off. He got 5 for 26 first dig. So Fergus O'Neill got a pair of nunfers the previous week and bounces back with a fifer. Boland 3, but boy, oh boy, did he work over Constas in that first innings. It was only a 4-ball duck, but it made for a beautiful sort of highlights package, beating him on both edges and eventually going through him. New South Wales, the second time, got 216. I, in my notes here, have failed to put in what Victoria did in their second innings. That's very good of me. But I can tell you that Victoria won by 38 runs and Constas got 53 the second time and Murphy bowled him and went absolutely nuts. Good on Todd Murphy, by the way. We don't talk about Todd Murphy much these days, but picked up 3 for 17. Boland 5 for 67. The cut they did on the socials of Boland and his spells plural he's good to go. He's hot to trot. So for all of the and I get it, by the way. It's a perfectly reasonable point that England got on top of Boland in England in 2023. That is true. That's a fact. But it doesn't offset the fact that Boland, in conditions that have suited him in Australia in the last 5 years, has been an absolute wizard. That's why he averages 11 in Test cricket at home. So
there's a lot made of that. There's a lot made of he got whacked in a couple of Test matches. Yeah, he did. And he also was on top of England before that. I mean, that's how relationships work. I think different parties spend different times on top. And so it doesn't there's a lot of through line thinking from some of the punditry particularly from the Northern Hemisphere that's going, oh well, they smashed him last time. So that was a couple of Test matches, one of which England lost and the other one they almost lost.
Well, so I think the real story here is, how do England approach Boland this time? It's not it doesn't really matter what happened at Leeds and what happened at Edgbaston and what happened 4 years ago in Australia. That's all gone now. He's 36, peak of his powers. He's playing the first Test. He's playing at Perth, which doesn't normally happen. Doesn't normally get a go at the start of a series when the canvas is blank. Do they try and play him in an enterprising way? Do they try and roll out the reverse scoops, knowing that he's so consistent?
Well, do they get away with it? Do they get away with it?
Well, maybe they don't. Maybe they play him with utmost respect and back the fact that they know that Boland's going to be an absolute handful and they need to play him in a more conservative way. I can't wait to see how England shape up to Boland. It's going to be one of the fascinating early storylines in the series.
They're going to go him. They're going to go for him. Surely. Like, there's no way they'll be able to hold themselves back. It'll be bouncy. It'll be, the kind of conditions where if you can get bat under it, you'll be able to lift it over the cordon and that sort of thing. The only question is whether they're good enough to get away with it or whether he's good enough to make him pay.
There's quite a bit made of the age profile of the Aussie quicks as well. As they disputing the fact that they're old, right? I mean, Boland's 36, Hazelwood's 32, Stark's 35. I think that's right. They're older, obviously.
Hazelwood's a bit older, isn't he?
Might be 34, actually.
34, I reckon.
Yeah. Either way, Hazelwood's got plenty of miles on the clock. But jumping out of order here a bit in our show notes, but boy, did you watch Hazelwood bowl the other day? Fuck me, he's good. I mean, has Hazelwood ever been better than this? I think it's reasonable. Has Hazelwood been a better bowler at any stage in his career than he has been over the last 24 months? I don't believe he has. The naked eye test is he is just an absolute monster at the moment. So he and Stark, who was in such great nick bowling in the Caribbean a couple of months ago, and then Boland, it presents, regardless of how old they are, there's a reason why they are so good and have been so consistent over such a long stretch of time. And it's set up to be a tantalising first couple of days because, the whole aura of England rides on them being able to do something similar to Australia as what they did at Edgbaston in 2023, right? To come out and really put them under pressure straight away. But do they try and be as overt in that as they were that day on a pancake at Edgbaston, one of the worst test pitches I've seen in Ashes Fair in recent years? Will they do it at Perth, which is likely to be lively? That's a whole different thing. That's a reason why the conditions play a role in these conversations, and it isn't sort of a facsimile. It's not a copy-paste from one ground or one series to the next.
No, but I mean that Perth surface it's not the whacker of legend.
It's pretty quick.
It is. It can be, but it's also, I mean, remember that West Indies test where they were not very good and that test went for 5 days one way or another, and there were some long innings from Tej Chanderpaul and from Craig Brathwaite. Like, it can. You're not guaranteed to get a really lively one at Perth. It can be more docile than that at times. So there's that possibility. Queensland went to Adelaide and won down there. South Australia made 228. Michael Neser, the aforementioned forfer.
Must play.
Hashtag must play. The time of the hashtag is dead. The hashtag is behind it. It's a real relic.
Can Barat and I get it going again? Can we get Neser must play going
Who
again?
Uses the hashtag anymore?
I don't know. Maybe it's more, I don't know. We're obviously all too old to have this conversation, but I'll speak to Baz about this. What can we do? Can we get a sign printed? Can we get the old Toyota bedsheet style thing? Neser must play hung over the rafters somewhere.
This is your version of saying, Neser, we're going to start a Michael Neser campaign. We're going to release it on wax cylinders, and we're going to give away wax cylinders so that everyone can play them on their Edison wax cylinder player when they get home. That time has passed. We're going to have to do something. It's going to have to be a TikTok. No, probably TikTok dances have passed anyway. I don't know what the latest thing is.
Now we're talking the Michael Neser TikTok dance.
Michael Neser must play a TikTok dance.
If you're that person, if you're that creative listening to the show right now and you want to make a quid or two, get in touch and we'll launch the Michael Neser. Bharat's the right person to front the campaign as well for this. He's into that type of thing, clearly.
So 228 for South Australia, 398 for Queensland, and that's where Marnus made his other big 159.
Threw away a quadruple. Threw away a triple. Reckon? He was on 150 out of I don't know. It was like Queensland were like 300 for 2 or something. Marnus was 150 odd. And this was like the game was moving at quite a pace as well. There was so much time left in the game that you could have seen a world where Marnus kept batting and drove South Australia into the ground. Unfortunately, the moment I posted something to that effect, he was dismissed next ball. But if you make these predictions enough, one time it'll come true. It did with Sam Northeast.
Yes, one time there will be a tie eventually. So South Australia did better second time around, 308. Alex Carey made 43, took 5 catches. I enjoyed that he caught all of the top 5 in the first innings. That was quite neat. You don't always see that on the scorecard.
And I like the fact that they're managing him. Didn't play the one-day game after this. Like, they know Carey is so important at 7. He's been in career best nick for a time now with bat in hand, and we saw how effective he can be in challenging conditions as well when we were at Barbados a few months ago. So I'm looking forward to seeing Carey this summer. Yeah, good to see Sweeney get a couple of starts in the game, having had a shocker the previous week. It's small. It's not going to get him in the test side, but you hate seeing a guy, this is happening at Bancroft a little bit right now, who starts the Shield season in contention and progressively finds their way,
bats himself out of contention,
to position number 15 in the pecking order. And Mick Sweeney's one of these guys they clearly have an eye on for the future in a leadership role as well. Yeah. So you want to see him there and thereabouts.
And that's happened to Bancroft about 3 times in the last 6 years, hasn't it? He's probably had 3 seasons where he's batted well and put himself in the conversation, and 3 where he's put himself very much out of it without looking at the stats. In any case, Queensland bowled them out second time around. Mitch Swepson took 6 after taking 4, 10 wickets in the match for a leg spinner. Don't mind that.
32. I had a look. I was curious, like, where's he at? You know, he's 32 now, and we know that spinners, especially of the wrist variety, tend to be at their most prolific around the age of their career. And I think the way that he was treated at the back of his brief Test career was pretty shabby. I think the way that it was, like, he experienced dreadful luck in that Karachi Test match, especially, which went all the way to the end. But he easily could have been the match winner on that final day. Did so much right. Yeah, and of course he went to Sri Lanka after that and performed nicely in Sri Lanka in 2022, and has not really been spoken of since. We've seen other spinners turn to and tried finger spinners in Murphy and then Kuhneman. They've both done a really nice job at different points, but Swepson deserves to be still in the conversation. A 10-wicket match, man of the match here. Beautiful highlights package. He still rips the ball a fucking mile. So, yeah, good on Mitch Swepson for still keeping himself in the conversation. A lesser bowler or someone of lesser character would have fallen off the radar after that really challenging time after that, that period in the Test squad.
And the last couple of bits being the Cummins thing is still bubbling along. They're being kind of upbeat that he'll play some of it. They haven't ruled him out of the first game. Who quite knows after that? And they had the one day round after the Shield round, which was cute. Just the way it used to be. Yeah. Back in the old.
Should have done it on a Sunday, Jeff. They should have finished the Shield on a Saturday. And like when we were kids, it was always the one days on a Sunday, wasn't it? And one game would be on telly, and then have the update scores coming in from the other grounds that would have like one camera if you're lucky for the news bulletin.
You see what John Moss was up to that day.
Victoria won narrowly over New South Wales at the Juno again with Will Sutherland making runs and Sam Elliott taking wickets.
We've got a question for you. Did you clock this thing about the injury substitute trial? I might have heard of it some months ago, but I didn't remember it. So they've brought in this thing for the Shield games now where it's not just concussion substitutes. Any injury up until the end of the second day you can be substituted for a like-for-like player at the discretion of the match ref. The squads are only travelling with one spare fast bowler, but they're working on the assumption that they can fly someone in if somebody else goes down injured. But it's interesting. The like-for-like thing's interesting because they're going, well, so you might not be able to do, like, if you're if you're a batter who can bowl and you're replacing a batter who can't bowl or doesn't regularly bowl, then you might be told you're not allowed to bowl. But you can't be told you're not allowed to bat. So if you've got a bowler who's good at batting, if you've got Aaron Hardy replacing, well, not that they play for the same team, but Jackson Bird. pick a bowler who was once told their batting's not good enough. If you've got a fast bowler who can't bat and a fast bowler who can, then they're still going to have to be allowed to bat in the 11. So there are ways that it could, and it can definitely be gamed because it can be any injury. So you can just say, I've got a hamstring twinge and I want to sit out. If you say you've bowled for the first day and a half and you're cooked, and you don't fancy another round, you just swap in for a fresh quick for the third innings.
This is a no for me. This will be manipulated. Part of the game forever has been remaining fit through the course of 4 or 5 days.
Managing your body.
And some injuries are unavoidable, and that's horrible when, like, a broken arm or something like that. But you can't be, it's going to get games. It's going to be manipulated. It's going to mess with the integrity of the game. And I therefore think that the concussion one makes sense for obvious reasons, but I think that's where the line should probably be drawn. And as we go into the break, Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's number one plaintiff law firm. Number one. We're number one. And we talk a lot about super insurance. One of their lawyers, Jason, who's actually going to join us on the podcast to talk about super insurance. We're going to record that interview, I think, later in the week, and we'll roll it out at some point. But he recently assisted a client who sustained catastrophic injuries after being run over by a forklift in the factory he worked at. So you can, as ever, you can get a sense of just how horrific those injuries would have been. Unlikely that he would have been able to have returned to the workforce on a reliable basis. And with his whole future ahead of him and a young family to care for, to be faced with the prospect of no income for the rest of his life was obviously daunting. And Maurice Blackburn were there to help him locate his insurer through his superannuation. And after a drawn-out battle with the insurer, were able to achieve a settlement of over $200,000. And this gave him and his young family peace of mind. So Jason there from Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, one of many outstanding lawyers who work from coast to coast. There are over 30 offices where you can go in person. But these days, it's just as easy to search. And we've got a link in our show notes, and specifically around super insurance, you can search that to learn more. They've got a great blog, which I've tapped into recently, where they've got so many other stories of other work that they've done on behalf of working Australians, class actions and other plaintiff cases that they've taken on. And that's the reason why they've got such an outstanding reputation, why we are so proud to be working with them throughout season 19, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. And they started in 1919 as well, and this is season 19. So that ties in well.
That's it.
That's Maurice Blackburn.
19.
We'll hear about them every single day on the podcast throughout the summer, including the Ashes. We'll be back in a moment to talk more, briefly at least, about the Ashes, then some other stuff too.
It's the final word. It's season 19. It's episode 3. Another story about things we didn't know about because not many people knew about this coming out during the week after an interview with our colleague Tom Decent was Nic Maddison's cancer experience over quite an extended period of time. Frightening story when you hear about this with, particularly with young, fit people who you don't expect to be whacked with this kind of thing. Testicular cancer, found a lump almost by accident, after just feeling run down, going to the doctor, just not feeling too crash hot, and then was able to diagnose this tumour, but and then had a second bout of things when they found out that cancer had spread more broadly, had to go and do 9 weeks of chemotherapy. It's a horrible story, but one where at least it seems that for now Matt has come out the other side of it.
Yeah, great. It has a nice ending, but a pretty distressing story when you read that. Yeah, it moved to his lymph nodes and his lungs, and I mean we've heard terrible things along those lines, haven't we? He's 33 now, and I think he was pretty close to the Test team last year. But by the end of the summer, he was left out by New South Wales, and he just attributed it to, in the article that Tom wrote, that he was just completely knackered and he didn't know what was wrong. And he went and got checked out when he saw the team doctor, and one thing led to another, and there was that diagnosis in April. And after that chemotherapy, he was back into training, and then there was after the tumor was removed, they saw this extra spreading of the cancer, which necessitated the chemotherapy, and very few people in cricket knew what was going on. So Adam Zampa being one of them, but he kind of kept it to himself, and now he's felt like this is the right time to get this story out there, because he feels like other people who feel like things may not be right and they might just have an instinct that something's wrong. It may not necessarily be a lump, but having a checkup, a detailed checkup in his case, was enough to uncover this tumor, and hopefully that's helped him recover and get vaguely back to normal, because he is now training, and there's a line in the article that he could be playing Shield cricket as soon as November, which would be remarkable.
Even if you don't feel run down, even if everything feels fine, you can still have these conditions crop up without knowing about it, and obviously the earlier you catch them, the better. And it's a cliche, but one that's a cliche because it's often true that particularly men are hard to get them to go to the doctor and get things checked out. I'm sometimes one of them. I'm like, it'll work itself out. The body will sort it. Sometimes it's just disorganization or, just not having the follow through to be able to. I just don't like calling people on the phone, so I don't want to ring someone to make an appointment, that kind of thing. Yeah. So you want to get over those little hurdles in order to give yourself the best chance if a situation like this crops up.
Absolutely. There was a story during the week over here about a blood test that can now do an enormous amount of the pre-screening for a whole heap of cancers, and let's hope that those types of advances in medical science make it easier to detect, because asymptomatic cancer is obviously a thing. Brutal treatment that he's obviously gone through, but all the very best to Nic Maddinson, who I've never really had much to do with him. I interviewed him once, I think years ago, but by all reports, one of the most popular people in the game, always been a great person to listen to when he talks, and good luck to him with all that comes next. And hopefully we'll see him back out on the field playing for the Blues soon. England have been playing over in New Zealand, Jeff, just to move over to the other side of the Ashes equation. They had a high-scoring T20 yesterday. That was Monday. I caught a little bit of this. They made 236 for 4 with Phil Salt making runs, and Harry Brook getting 80-odd as well. And then Bryden Cass got a couple of wickets and didn't get injured, which I think is the most important thing for Bryden Cass. If I were England, I'd just be sending him to a resort. Where's nice in October?
Why is he playing? Imagine you go, oh yeah, well I missed the 2025 Ashes because I was playing a T20 in New Zealand.
Yeah, I don't quite get it either because they haven't got Wooder Archer there. Wisecast there when he will almost certainly be playing in Perth. Where's nice in October? Where's warm? Somewhere near the equator. Send him up to Port Douglas.
Cape York.
Yeah, just give him some time off. Feet up. No bowling. No stress on that back of his. Let him rest those.
Stay out of the rivers.
Heavily tattooed arms.
If you go up that way, stay out of the rivers, Bryden.
Yeah, just don't be playing cricket for a bit. Get back into the swing of things in a couple of weeks. Anyway, they'll keep playing that white ball series. Another bit of England news is that David Saker is going to be the bowling coach that he's going to be looking after. Bryden, Carson, and all the rest who are going out there. Well, I understand that he was their bowling coach between 2010 and 2015, right? And of course, there are a string of Ashes wins in that, including in 10-11. So he's always seen as such an important part of that story. And he's loved by that generation of fast bowlers. Now, it's been a while.
He was also Australia's bowling coach during Sandpaper.
He was, and he lost his job not long after Justin Langer took over. He was relieved of his duties, wasn't he? So maybe 4 or 5 months after that. So, yeah, it's been a long and occasionally rocky journey for David Saker, but they want someone who has enjoyed success to be with the England squad in Australia. I think it makes sense. I link it back to an extent to what Broad said the other day. Broad, he was saying that, I think this might be the worst Australian team since 10-11. Yeah, 10-11. I love the way he's so good in delivering a line. That's going to be a massive part of the way that the cricket's taken in over the summer with Stuart Broad on Channel 7 and working with us on SEN, that he's such a great deliverer of a line that there will be more headlines generated by Stuart Broad per day than there are by Kane Corns in the footy season. That's my my prediction, and that's said with love to Kane, that he finds a way of being able to just get his delivery so spot on that it generates headlines everywhere. That's going to be Broady's story once he arrives in Australia in a few weeks' time.
Well, it's also going to be the most repeated back to him line if, England get pumped in the first couple of encounters and away things go. So you want to watch out for saying things like that. Worst team since 10-11. There were some pretty ropey teams around 2015-16. You and I remember pretty well. And I don't think this is a particularly bad Australian team. They've got one empty spot basically, but there are 8 different players who could be in it who are all good players. So.
I think the reason why people feel that way is there's definitely a view over here. Our friend Simon Wilde, who's been on the show recently talking about his excellent book from this year on Gilbert Jessup, said that it's the oldest average 11 since, I think it's the team that Rhodes played in Jamaica in 1930. So
what?
I'm just making the point that
Geelong, the oldest team to win a flag in 2022.
Hawthorn 1991, I remember it well. But the too old, too slow, too good thing is one way it can go. Dad's Army is the other way it can go. I was asked this question on TV the other day. I'm like, well, it was Dad's Army in 2005 when Australia got done, but it was also Dad's Army in 06-07 when they won 5-0. So that profound amount of experience.
Dad's even older Army, 18 months older than they had been.
That's it. So
that time around.
So it's experience, battle hardened, big bodies. What's that Dan Christian line? Old blokes win stuff. There's that. Or there is if you don't enjoy a team with too much youth in the dressing room, are there just too many battle scars? That's the beauty of this series. You are seeing a team who are trying to go around one more time when it comes to England. It's players like Usman Khawaja, almost certainly his last Ashes series. Steve Smith, I'd say it's a 50-50 on whether he gets to 2027. I know that the Australian camp want him to get round there, but it's no sure thing. He's a generational great. Where's Mitchell Starc in 2 years' time? Where's Josh Hazlewood in 2 years' time? Where's Nathan Lyon in 2 years' time? They'd all love to be there.
But where are they now? So worst team I've seen in 15 years. You've got 4 of the highest wicket takers in Australian Test history all playing in the same 11 if Cummins gets fit. You've got, I've got question marks about Khawaja. I'm not convinced that that's the right call, and there's an unknown in terms of that opening spot. But if it then goes Labuschagne, Smith, Head, and then any one of the players who could bat at 6 who are all good candidates, that's a very strong 3 to 6. Kerry at 7, that's strong. So you've got 2 question mark spots out of 11, which I would say most Test teams ever have had a couple of question mark spots out of 11.
Oh, there's always someone.
Very, very best.
Is there ever been a Test team without someone in the hot seat? There's always someone in the hot seat. It's just,
literally only like the Australian and West Indies winning streak teams are That's probably the only times ever where you go, yes, all 11 spots are settled.
But always someone under the pump, right? There's always someone in the top six who's under
yeah.
some pressure with the next man in syndrome.
Mm.
But yeah, I find that part of the joy of what are we, a month out, and a lot of guys will be playing probably in their final Ashes series. There's something lovely about that, given they've been involved in like 8 of them, right? There will be a change. These teams will feel different. This team, rather, will feel different in 2 years' time, and absolutely in 4 years' time when they're next in Australia. So that's the joy of all of this. Just changing to the limited overs format for a moment, Jeff. In the Women's World Cup, Alyssa Healy has got a calf niggle. Speaking of experienced Australian cricketers, calf niggle. She'll miss the England game. They've both qualified for the semis, so it's not going to be a huge deal. But Healy's been in such remarkable nick with those back-to-back hundreds, that worldly against England, and then doing it again in a chase of 200 for none last week. So she's been at the peak of her powers. She's the captain of that team. Talia McGrath will captain in her absence. I suppose we won't know how long that absence will be until we're at the other end of the England game in a couple of days.
Yeah, I still find that an odd kind of captaincy choice, because I reckon in terms of who's closest to being squeezed out in terms of returns, it probably is Talia McGrath. Like she's had an unconvincing time of it thus far in the tournament, and feels less like a lock than, Ash Gardner would be a much more natural VC pick for me at the moment, given how indispensable she is. But it's odd. I mean, calf injuries don't tend to get better in a week. The semi-finals will be in a week from now. I'm not sure which one Australia will play in at this stage, but it could be Tuesday or it could be Thursday, I think. Or are they back-to-back days? I've lost the schedule in my head. So is she going to get better in a week? Took Lockie Neal a couple of weeks to get back. So I'm not... again, this feels like one where if she's missing games, get her in the hyperbaric chamber.
I saw a TV show recently with the whole premise of the show was someone being locked for multiple years in a hyperbaric chamber and what happens to their body. So I want one less in my backyard now than I did before. It was a drama. It was she was a hostage who was locked in a hyperbaric chamber. It wasn't Andrew Dunkley before the 96 grand final. It was someone else. Or anyone else that's done that treatment late thing. But yeah, the World Cup more broadly, Jeff, I mean, we know that India, it's kind of ridiculous and a function of the weather in Sri Lanka that India is still in the comp, but there's been so many no results that a whole bunch of teams can jump into fourth, and India might still be one of them despite losing to South Africa, Australia and England. So they're not doing a great job of things considering they were second favourite going into the tournament. I think you've done a little bit of this on The Daily Show, Jeff, that's been proudly brought to you by Lacuna Sports. Thank you to them. So we may as well mention them in this segment. This time of year is the time of year when monsoons hit Sri Lanka. And we need to be honest about why this World Cup is being co-hosted in Sri Lanka. You and Fidos did a great job of this on The Daily. Like, I feel like sometimes with this, do we just price it in as normal now? Like, well, the game's maladministered. The game's a fucking joke. International governance is nowhere. Well, we just kind of like shrug our shoulders. And it's a bit like that. And I know you're big on this, Jeff, in Trump era America, like, the first time that something outrageous happens, there's lots of headlines. And the fourth time it's like, we know this is happening now. We don't make as big a deal about it. Is this where we're at the moment, that we're like, well, I don't know. We always anticipated that at some level this World Cup would be a bit of a farce. And the bit that's turned out to be most farcical is hosting the other stage of it in Sri Lanka. And the reason that we're having that in Sri Lanka, all roads lead back to the India-Pakistan conflicts, which really should be something that can be solved in a better way, surely, than dumping the games to somewhere where they're almost invariably going to be rain affected.
Well, it's the thing of allocating, like what we talked about on the Daily Show, was allocating every second global tournament to India because they want the tournaments, but they're not prepared to host the entire tournament, or that situation is irretrievable as far as having them be able to properly host the tournament. So how do you nominate to host tournaments if you then know that you can't have all of the teams in the tournament come and play? This is the intractable problem that keeps being run up against. And it is waved away because India want to go ahead, and that's the way they decided to do it. But at least in this situation like this, you've got to give yourself a chance by maybe trying to schedule the games earlier so you've got more time to absorb a rain delay and then get play back on, or schedule in reserve days or something. There needed to be a more creative approach than just, half the games will be lost and the rest of them will be affected. Some of them have been played to a conclusion, but they still haven't been satisfactory matches because they've been so badly affected.
Oh, there was 4 out of 5 in Colombo. One was rain affected. They managed to manufacture a result, but 4 that were washed out, whatever it was in the end.
Three. I think there've been 3 completely lost, and 3 no results, and then another 3 probably that have been heavily rain affected.
And one was where they managed to sneak a game in at 10:30 at night, and it was the integrity of that game owing to the fact that it's and it
tends to rain at the end of the afternoon, so why not play the games earlier to try to see if you can get as much play as possible.
And we know why they don't, because of course it relates to wanting to have as many people watching it as possible.
But if people are watching not play on TV, if people are watching it rain on TV, that's not very useful. So.
I've seen some crazies get stuck into us about the 2019 World Cup in England, saying, "Oh, it rained at that World Cup." It did in the month that statistically there's the least amount of rainfall in England. It's allowed to rain still in that month. It will still rain in every month of a year. It will rain.
Yeah, in any country it rains.
So the concentration of rain in that 1 week in England in 2019. Where it was bloody annoying, but it wasn't a function of poor scheduling. It was a function of a bit of bad luck. This is a function of them making a decision to host the World Cup in Colombo at this time when this was an overarching risk, and they didn't care. And as Fidos pointed out in her passage with you, Jeff, there was the cost impost of how much the whole thing would have meant had it been shifted to the UAE, or at least portions of it shifted to the UAE, and they saw a cheaper option in Sri Lanka, and they're paying the price for that.
Yeah, and pointing at other things, it doesn't make any sense. It's like going, if I tell you that you shouldn't have drunk 12 beers before you fell down the stairs, and then you're like, well, other people fall down the stairs having drunk no beers, so it's fine. It's like, yes, but you can manage your risk. You can try to play the percentages at least, that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's the political overlap into the game, and now we've got another horribly similar and deeply unfortunate situation happening between Afghanistan and Pakistan, who've historically been sort of allies in a cricket sense, in that Pakistan sort of promoted Afghanistan's rise, but there also have always been tensions, cross-border tensions, conflicts, and it's difficult to try to pick apart the threads of what's happened in this particular situation. But the reporting on it is that there was an airstrike, a cross-border airstrike in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan authorities are saying that it was the Pakistan government who'd authorised it, or the military. I mean, the military basically run Pakistan in every sense. So whether there was any civilian government involvement, who knows? The details of it haven't become clear yet, but there was an explosion. A number of people were killed. 3 of those were Afghanistan cricketers, not national team players, but cricketers at a domestic level. And there's the Afghanistan government are incensed about this, so they've pulled out of this tri-series that they were supposed to play with Pakistan. And if there were previously sometimes friendly relations between those countries, they're definitely not that at the moment.
Yeah, the strike of a house specifically, where these 3 young cricketers were having dinner after a match, were how the reports were revealed after it happened. And the cricket knock-on after all the statements were issued were related to Afghanistan, who was scheduled to play a tri-series involving Pakistan next month. So there's a T20 tri-series from the 17th to the 19th of November. It was going to be Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, but straight away the Afghanistan boards pulled them out, and Zimbabwe are stepping into that slot for what it's worth. But it's obviously a story that we're not entirely qualified to talk about, but the tragedy nevertheless. And Afghanistan are playing a test match at the moment as well, and they're playing Zimbabwe, who are the team who are replacing them in that tournament, and Zimbabwe have got the better of them so far. So this is a one-off test at Harare. Afghanistan were bowled out for 127 on day 1. 5 wickets for seamer Brad Evans playing his second test, right arm, fast medium. and Zimbabwe in reply. So it's the middle session of day 2. They've made their way to 300 for 5. A century for Ben Curran. I'm pretty sure that's his. Yeah, well, I can check this in real time. But Ben Curran's currently 121 not out. Yeah, that's his maiden test century. So he's made a half century. He's made a one-day 100. And now Ben Curran has done something that neither of his brothers have done and made a test 100, which is a lovely thing. He was batting with our man Sikandar Raza, who was dismissed about 30 or so runs ago for 65. So Zimbabwe in a strong position in that one-off test match. There's another test match happening at the moment, Jeff. You've had an eye on this one with a second test between Pakistan and South Africa. There was a very good finish to that first one. Why don't we cover off what happened at the end of the first test and then go into the second?
Yes, exactly that. So where we left it was the very start of the fourth innings. South Africa were a couple of wickets down already for not many. So that set the tone. They were bowled out for 183, chasing 277. No man's land, no man Ali.
Done it again.
No man on earth can, No weapon forged. No weapon forged by man can harm me. No man born of women can kill Macbeth, but Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped. That's No Man Ali. 4 for 79 in the second innings. He took 6 in the first, 10 in the match. Happy days, wins by 93 runs.
I tell you what, he keeps us. He keeps me feeling alive, that guy. He's nearly 40. He's taken 93 test wickets at 24, a strike rate of 48. Available if selected this summer. Always available if selected. Older spinners, get him in the team. Mm-hmm. No Man Ali with his... it used to be left arm innocuous, but it's more than that these days. He gives it a rip and keeps the stumps in play, threatens both edges, in the best traditions of left arm orthodox spinners. Thrilled to see him ticking over beautifully. So, yeah, and it was also, I like Shaheen Shah Afridi bowling second change. He came on, took 4 for, but a bit of absolutely brutal reverse swing in that. He bowled one out-swinging Yorker from around the wicket. It was as close to Wasim Akram as you can get at the peak of Wasim Akram's powers. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend going and having a look. And Jeff, Maharaj is back for South Africa in the second test match, which is going at the moment.
Yes, so Pakistan made a pretty good score. 3-3-3, Graham Gooch and Abdullah Shafiq, 57. 10,000 test runs, you said, about Abdullah Shafiq, so he's on his 1,500.
What's he up to, 1,500?
1,500 from 24 tests.
I said it.
So he's going to have to play 170 test matches at this rate.
To be fair, I said it, and then Simon Koenig backed me in immediately, so it's Cat and mine. We own that together.
Okay.
You might be listening. Hi, Kat. See you next month.
Look, it could yet happen. He might go on a Muhammad Yusuf style tear at one point. Shan Masood, knives are out for Shan Masood. I'm sure you can hear them getting sharpened in the background because no Pakistan captain's ever safe from that. But he made 87, so didn't make 100. They'll be wanting to knife him for that. Saud Shakil made 66, and Salman Agha, who was doing that tricky job with the white ball team leading that, made 45. What are you oohing about?
I just saw that. I didn't see the scorecard this morning. I didn't realise that Keshav took a 7 for. So back in the side takes 7 for 100.
Yes.
That's sexy. I love that. Really into that. By the way, you're right about Pakistan being under the pump, right? I get all of that. But they only really played 2 test match series. If they get a 2-0 here against South Africa, they're away. Like we know the way the WTC works. If you win your home test matches and you do credibly away, you get your percentage up, your match ratio up to with a 6 in front of it. Yeah, you're a puncher's chance.
You stem the bleeding. What you do is you win your home test and you pick 11 bats when you're away.
Yeah, that might happen at some point. You might start seeing teams go away from home and gaming it a little bit and acknowledging they probably won't get a result and they might try and play for draws more readily. It's plausible that could happen down the track. You could see a scenario where a team only needs to draw to make it through to the final, and they adopt an approach of playing, just No Man Ali and Sarfraz Khan. They'll do, and everyone else bats, and those two are the only bowlers.
I don't think Sarfraz will be much use to them with the gloves.
No, probably not. Sorry, get my right one. South Africa in reply, they're going okay. They're 185 for 4.
Yeah,
Tristan Stubbs 0.68, and Tony DeZorzi half century.
Tony,
another one.
Tony DeZorzi. Here we go. Well, he made 100 in the last game.
Yeah.
So he's flying now. Big tones. But Stubbs 68 not is important. So Kyle Verena is there with him. But Stubbs, they've been investing in and waiting for him to come good in Test cricket, and it's been a slow burn, but that's promising if you can turn that into something less so for De Wald Brevis, the wunderkind who made a duck and hasn't done anything to speak of in tests thus far.
Jeff, a couple of things to round out our show. First of all, did Test 20 hit your social media algorithm during the week?
Was that the AB de Villiers thing?
Yes.
I saw a clip for it. I had no idea what it was. All I saw was AB saying, "You should come and join our youth club. We are looking forward to seeing you." But what is it? What did it mean? It didn't explain anything about what it actually was.
Right. So they're going to be franchise teams from around the world. There's a Dubai. There's a London. You get the idea. India are involved too. And there's going to be a tournament.
For kids.
No. This is real. It's happening in January. 6 franchise.
I thought it was
teams.
an age group thing. He was talking about like under 15s players or something.
Unless I've misread this, I'm pretty sure this is taking place. Let's zoom out from what it actually is in the first iteration. Let's focus more on what this is. It's a day where you play 20 overs against each other and you play 20 more against each other. It's basically the Ryobi Cup. And they're branding it as, remember when the Ryobi Cup did 25?
Is that
25,
what it is? Yes.
Yes. That's what
it was 20, 25 and 20. I reckon it was
or whatever 40, it was.
45. No, it was 40. For a while, the Ryobi was 40 overs, and it was 2 20s. It was Test 20.
So it's a split innings. I mean, there's power plays and all that kind of jargon. And
so they've just invented a list A game.
Yeah. And I think that the team batting last needs to do so with a certain number of wickets still in hand. Otherwise, etc. There are other bits and bobs to make it more than just a split innings limited overs international, which we have had a little bit of, not international, but at domestic level. But basically, the very fact that they are calling it, the very fact that the word test is involved in it is, I've got no problem with them having a dart at some other format for fun. Like, this might be a fun format to play, right? But please stop. Please stop talking about. I saw one thing where Clive Lloyd was quoted talking about the game needing to evolve and people not liking Test cricket in quite the same way. This is not the answer to that question. If that indeed is a question, I'm not convinced that it is. The answer isn't playing a couple of T20s on the same day. That's not replacing Test cricket. Anyway, so let's hopefully.
But it'll be joint scores. I'm just looking at it now. You can draw. You can draw a Test 20. If you bat through your second lot of 20 overs while keeping at least 5 wickets in hand.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the 5-wicket thing was. It was about
the draw. Imagine how thrilling that will be if a team just decides to block out 20 overs at 4 down.
Well, I guess there is some similarities to single innings one-day cricket where you can bat out the draw and there's 20 overs in the final hour and whatever else. But anyway, last but not least, the East Asia.
Dubai, London, a yet-to-be-confirmed US city, and 3 from India. Well,
it's going to go well.
It's going to.
What about Riyadh?
Can't wait.
When Riyadh's hosting?
Where's Riyadh? Yeah.
Get them in.
Big away day to Riyadh.
The East Asia qualifier. Imagine what you're doing your day off. Your Asia, your Riyadh away weekend. Where is it they do the public beheadings in the square? Is that in Riyadh?
Must be, probably. Yeah, you could go down to the line, the construction building of the line, and have a look at some of the villages they're bulldozing to make way for it. You could
all normal that we just go. Oh, but they got heaps of money though, and
they do have a lot of money. See,
heaps of oil and heaps of money, so it's all good. Like, there's no worry about it, right? Because it's cool because they got money, right? So they got money, and therefore
money. And
it's
they
all
want to
good.
spend it.
They want to spend it on our sport. So that's good then. That's a good thing, right? Good. We all make more money. Good.
Look, it's like, okay, on the one hand, I understand that they're doing all the murders, but on the other hand, they've got a lot of money that they want to spend to stop us from thinking about the fact that they're doing the murders. So it would be churlish of us to not take the money, and it would be churlish of us to talk about the murders. Hence fine upstanding global citizens like Dave Chappelle and co. all went like, let's go to the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Because when you think comedy, you think the Saudi Arabian monarchical regime.
It's funny people.
You think the dictatorial murder king, Mohammed bin Salman. You think comedy. He loves a chuckle, loves a laugh. Don't make any jokes about Saudi Arabia or they will kill you. Definitely don't do that on the internet.
A few bone saw gags and you end up getting bone sawed.
Yeah. That's comedy. That's irony.
There's no Ross Taylor fairy tale, Jeff. I'm sorry to report. They didn't make it through. Who did make it through? The UAE, Nepal, and Oman. So there are reports that it's going to run until the 8th of March. Nagraj had that quick info, that yarn last week. So I think we all thought
that was always the plan.
I don't know about that. It was going to be more February. Now it's into March.
I've had that date in my calendar for months.
Nugraja's story had it slightly different, and now, well, you're clearly more across the information than the journalists reporting on it. He said 8th of March is going to be the final mid-February-ish start. So the teams will be India, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Australia, Bangladesh, England, South Africa, USA, West Indies, Ireland, New Zealand, Pakistan, Canada, Italy, Netherlands, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Nepal, Oman, and the UAE. 20-team tournament. It'll be good.
Be good.
It'll be good. Oh, and by the way, I said that was the last thing. There's one more thing. We haven't done a bannerman in Yonks. Pat Rogers sent us one. In Sydney, first grade on Saturday, Jaden Simmons, batting for Fairfield, was the last man out for 51 out of all out 69. And you better believe that's a bannerman, a 73.9%er in an innings that included 7 ducks. Sydney, first grade, getting mentioned on the podcast twice in the space of 3 weeks. Who saw that? There you go.
Well, in Sydney, when the rain comes down, the ducks come out. Quack, quack, quack. Very good. Thank you, Adam. That's been the final word weekly. If you want to help us make the show, please do. Patreon.com/thefinalword, patreon.com/thefinalword. If you're one of those people who wants to sponsor the show like we talked about at the start, please also get in touch.
Email me, adam@finalwordcricket.com. If you're in the UK, like this is obviously lots of people in Australia listen, but just as many in the UK, whisper it. This is the value proposition right now from us. Join us from the UK. We've had lots of sponsors from the UK in the past. Adam@finalwordcricket.com. Get in touch. Let's do a deal and let's have you all over our Ashes coverage that begins in 1 month from now. 1 month from now, the Ashes begins. The clock is counting down.
All right, the Women's World Cup game for the day has resumed after some rain, so I'm going to go and watch that so that I can record a daily show, and it is time to stop this one. Adam, nice to see you. Another time I will see you again. That sentence didn't make sense, but there we go. It's been the final word. See you later.
Ta-da.